My name is Eddie Francis, and I will tell you about myself in just a little bit. But how many of you have ever sat in any kind of a work meeting? Even as an intern? All right, great. So we've done this. My career started in radio, straight out of college. And so let's just say that my career probably started in the most unprofessional environment that it could have possibly started in. And when I got in, I remember we were sitting in this one meeting, and we're talking about the mid-90s, late 90s. And I had this boss who was kind of a surly cat. He and I really didn't get along all that well. We just didn't. And as a matter of fact, this dude told me this once, quote, he said, "Eddie, you're kind of arrogant. I have to figure out how to control you." Oh. Now, I agreed with the first part of I had no problem with the first part of the sentence. But the second part, I was like, what the hell am I, Wild Kingdom? I was like, I was like, it's not like I'm flipping desks over or anything like that. I started doing that later in my career. I mean, it's like I'm not doing, So we were having this one meeting, and at the time, Martin Luther King Jr. Day had not become a federal holiday yet. And so what happened was that it was gaining steam around the country. A lot of states were starting to adopt MLK Day. And so he said, hey, we need a really good promotion for the radio station for MLK Day. Now, I was on a hip hop station at the time. And I said, you know what? I have an idea. We won't have to spend any money. It's going to take us a couple of seconds. And I tell you, it's going to work. Why don't we just get on the air and just wish everybody Happy King Day? Because this is our first time really doing this. And so why don't we just go ahead and kick the door open and just wish everybody Happy King Day? Let listeners call in and talk about what they think about Martin Luther King Jr. and all these other things. So this dude looks dead at me and goes, why would we do that? That's not practical. Oh. I was like, well, first of all, the day itself isn't practical. He wasn't very practical, and so what got to me wasn't the fact that he didn't like the idea. What got to me was the fact that he was hell-bent on just not listening. And he had some issue with me. And to me, he allowed something, honestly, that was kind of small to get in the way of a big thing. And from that point on, I started paying attention to the leaders who I would serve under every single time. I was always fascinated with what they were thinking, why they made certain decisions, what was going on. But then I became even more fascinated with the way they were treating their people. Because I remember the way I felt in that moment. I felt a couple of things in that moment. I felt disappointment. I felt rage. I also felt a little sadness. But I just know that after that, I flat out did not trust dude. I didn't trust him. So to me, there was no conversation to be had about really much of anything else. I actually started planning my transition to another radio station. That happened a couple of years later. And here's the thing that's really funny. What's really funny is that the next boss I had was a very positive cat, really good dude. And he and I got along really well. And then I went to work for this company after my radio career, and something happened that freaked me clean out. I didn't realize how toxic an environment I had been in for my first job out of college. And I actually went to go do an assignment. And my boss called me one night at 8 p.m. And he goes, Eddie, how's it going? And so the first thing I'm thinking is, I'm fired. So I'm like, if he get a call at 8 o'clock, that's it, you're done, right? And he goes, look, and I started explaining myself. I didn't have anything to explain, but I was like, listen, man, so yeah, about the thing, I don't know what the thing is. I don't know what I'm about to get fired about, but listen, I didn't do it. And you know what, I just, when you want the letter. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I said, why are you calling me this time of night? And he said, because you went and did this assignment and you knocked it out of the park. I'm calling you to thank you.
Slay.
Exactly. And so I was at this point where, as a young man, I didn't know what it meant for a leader to be thankful. I had no idea what that looked like, what it sounded like. And so I became even more fascinated with leadership. I became even more fascinated with how leaders treat people.